Hi everyone, Mike Riley here with Gaining Altitude Financial, and I wanted to speak to folks who are either thinking about retirement or in retirement and are concerned about making their money last as long as they do, especially during times of volatility. It's very common for people not to want to take on risk when they have their money invested and they're no longer earning income, because when the market goes down and their funds go down, then they don't want to be taking money out, withdrawing and taking income at a time when their investments are down for a variety of reasons. But the biggest is that it's very difficult to make that money back up again. So traditionally what happens is that people become very conservative in retirement and invest their money in GICs or very conservative, low returning funds, which is fine. The challenge is that as longevity has increased and people who retire at 60 to 65 live for another 20 or even 30 years, the difficulty is trying to get that money to last and not have to live in a scarcity mentality because they can't afford to do anything because inflation has eroded any of the growth that they have. So rather than taking a lump sum of retirement money, whether it's RSPs, TFSAs, RIFs, or non-registered investments, and put that into a conservative portfolio, what I recommend is something called a cash wedge. So for the simplicity of this demonstration, keeping the math easy, this particular individual has an investment portfolio of $500,000. Does it matter how big it is? No. It just makes the math relatively easy for this. And they were to say, I need, in addition to my Canada pension plan, my old age security, the pension that I have with work, if they have one, I need to get an additional $25,000 a year coming out of my investments in order for me to be able to live. So what we do then is to say, let's take 25K, and we'll keep that in cash or a money market, something that is not exposed to any market ups or downs, but is going to get at least a little bit of growth. But this is essentially your liquidity wedge, so that if you, for that whole year, it doesn't matter whether the market goes up or down, you've got that 25 grand. Now we take another 25,000 and we put that into a 1-year GIC, or a guaranteed investment option. So that's a 1 year. And so it's going to sit there and grow and get whatever the amount is that we have been able to negotiate for that year. Maybe it's 3%. And we take another 25,000 and we put that into a 2-year GIC. So what you see here is that we have 3 years worth of income already set aside in something that has no downside, is going to get some growth, maybe not as much as you would like in a traditional investment, but there's 3 years worth of protection for whatever's going to go on in the marketplace. Now then we can take the remainder of that, so that's $425,000, and actually invest that much more aggressively. We may even be able to, I wouldn't say go all equity, but at least a balanced portfolio, which is 60% equity, 40% fixed income, or even go a little bit more aggressive into an advance, which would be 80-20. Either way, what you have here is most of the money is now able to participate in the growth of the marketplace. We've got 3 years worth of protection in case there's a downturn, and on average, any market correction is back within 18 months. So you've certainly got enough time within the wedge. What this allows is great flexibility. So if the market's doing really well, you can choose to take your income as profit from this wedge, or say, I'm going to leave that to do whatever it's doing and continue its compounded growth. And I'm just going to take my money from here. At the end of year 1, we're going to roll that 1 year over and feed the cash wedge. We're going to roll that 2 year over and feed that cash wedge, and we'll take another 25,000 from here and move that in. So we're always filling up the next bucket from the previous bucket. And then you also get that flexibility, especially in those early years of retirement when you want to do a lot of the fun things like travel, to say, we're going to take 10 grand and spend 4 months going through Europe, for example. You can choose where to take that. Whereas if you have a traditional conservative investment with everything in one bucket, you may not have that flexibility to opt for those sorts of decisions. So I hope that makes sense. The cash wedge, I've used it many times with retirement clients, and they almost always end up with more money 10 years later than if they had just used a conservative amount and withdrawn that money. So if you have any questions, love to hear from you. If you'd like to see if this is a philosophy that would work with your investment program, I'd love to be able to take a look for you. So that's Mike Riley, Gaining Altitude Financial, helping you gain some altitude and gain confidence.